Hello everyone and welcome to the final Intro to Python MOOC. Can't believe we're on week 4 already. Hope everyone's had a lovely week and been starting with your spell checker projects as well. There's been some great posts on the Slack channel as well, people helping each other out, and also lots of success stories. So great to see you all with your spell checkers. So just to start, we're just going to go through just the standard little bits that I do at the beginning, and then I'll hand over to Ik for our last session. So just to double check with everyone, can you hear me clearly? Can you all read this slide clearly? Let us know at any point throughout if any of the sound goes or anything looks a bit too difficult. Just as a reminder, you can press the 4 little arrows on YouTube to make the screen larger, and we've also got live caption as well available in Chrome. I will post the link for that. So yes, again, just let us know if you can't read the text on screen or any issues with that. Does somebody mind just commenting just to say quickly that you can hear me okay? I know that there's a little bit of a lag between us. I'm just going to wait just to double check that you can all hear me. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Everyone can hear me. Fab. So just as a little recap of our journey so far. So obviously this is week 4, and this week we're going to be having a look at libraries and opportunities. And then finally, that means that on completion of all 4 MOOCs and all 4 quizzes, if we go onto this slide here, after each of those sessions, you should have received a link to a quiz. Upon successful completion of all 4 quizzes, so it's really important that you complete all 4 quizzes, you will receive the all-important pass certificate. If anybody's having any trouble finding the quizzes, if you just go into the #announcements channel on the Slack, then in the top bar you can see there are 4 little folders for each session, and there are links to the quizzes in those sessions. I will post a link to the Slack channel again, just in case nobody has it by this point. And as we are coming to a close this week for this Intro to Python MOOC, might be a great chance to go and have a look at any other courses that Code First Girls have to offer. There's a whole kind of wide range of courses in a number of different languages, and also lots of other soft skills as well. So thinking about CV writing, applications, etc. They are continuously updated, so keep having a look online as new ones get released, if there aren't any available yet on topics that you are after. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Ikra to take us through session 4.
Hi everyone. So just following up from what Anna said, we've seen so many we've just seen so many people helping out each other, really appreciate that as well, spending the time to help each other, send any relevant links. Really, like I said, it is seen and we do appreciate it as well. And yeah, just well done for everyone who's having a go at the quizzes, who's, constantly trying, asking questions, things like that. We are, sometimes we will always get back to you in regards to, any queries and stuff, but yeah, just we can, just like other people helping out, it's always really nice to see. So thank you so much. And yeah, it's our last session today, which it's gone really fast. But yeah, it's been absolutely a pleasure teaching everyone. And I hope you enjoyed the MOOC overall. But without further ado, I'll get into session 4. So today we're looking at statements, arguments, and libraries. So we're just going to have we're going to have a little kind of recap of last week as well. But yeah, we will also be looking at the following in today's session. Can we go on to the next slide, please, Anna? All right, so this is the kind of what we've been doing at the moment. So this is what we did last week. So we understood functions in Python. So what we need to remember is that functions are used a lot in Python, and as well as that, the way we use a function name, are generally followed by a pair of brackets. So you can use or call a function by typing in its name, followed by the brackets. And what to be more specific with technical terms, we'd call that'll be known as a function cell. So Python comes with a lot of ready-made built-in functions, so which as we've seen previously, so print is one, and range, and they usually when you put a function built-in function in, it'll change color within the Python interface. Now let's have a look. So you can also access a lot of more functions by importing modules as well. So these are, for example, libraries that are ready-made functions. So we've got the turtle modules and we've got other modules as well. So these are all types of functions that we use. Next, we have lambda functions. So this is another type of function that we briefly touched upon. We looked at the difference between local and global scope, and we also added to our spell checker project. Actually, we've kind of finished our spell checker project because me and Anna were just saying before we went live that we've seen so many amazing projects of the spell checker, and as soon as if you're still working on it, it's absolutely fine. There's no rush at all. But it's great to see. Send it across to us. We love to see them. And yeah, keep us updated. If we could go on to the next slide, please, Anna. Perfect. Okay, so this is our session overview for today. We're looking at return statements in Python. We're also going to understand the arguments in Python as well. Differentiating between hashlib and yolib. I don't know why it's got spaces like that, but it's fine. And also finishing our project. Now, for those who have already finished their project, I do have something in mind. I am going to send it on the Slack channel. It is basically, I've seen another project where you can use, TextBlob and Tkinter as well. So if you do want to have a go at that, then, feel free to have a go. But yeah, like I said, there's no pressure or no deadline or anything like that for you guys to kind of think, I need to get this done and I need to get this other one done as well. Take it, you're learning, it's a learning process, and make sure you understand what you're doing at the same time as well. It's just as important, which I'm sure all of you are. Can we go on the next slide, please, Anna? Okay, so we'll start off with return statements. So we're just gonna have a look at return statements in how they are used in Python as well. Could we go to the next slide, please, Anna? Oops, sorry about that. So a return statement is used to end the execution of the function call, and it returns the result. So in Python, the result of value, when you have a return value, is the result of value you get from a function when it runs. So in the simple, that's like the one-liner definition. So what a return statement will do, it will appear at the end of a function block, and it will return the final result once it's executed the statements that were contained in that function. So you can also return booleans, strings, and anything else that we also that we've been through within previous weeks. But a return statement is just basically the result that we get from a function when it runs. And that is something to keep in mind, because you will come across return statements, you might have to use them, and it's always just good to keep that in mind as well. Could we go on to the next slide, please, Anna? Okay, so we're going to do this one together. What do we think is happening here in this little snippet that we have? What do we think is actually going on with this? So we've got define my function, return 3 plus 3, and we're going to say print my function. I want to get everyone involved because it's our last session as well. So I want to make it as interactive as possible. What do we think is going to happen with this little output? What are we going to get? When it says print my function, what is it going to print? Does anyone want to have a go? I'm just going to go into the comments so I can see. Okay, yeah, addition function, give 6. Well done getting involved, everyone. Okay, So it's going to return our function. It's going to return what is basically what we've said for it to do. So for example, it's returned our value. So that's what we want it to do. So it's run what's happened. The function call runs the function, and then it represents the information it returns as well. So perfect. Well done, guys. If we go into the next slide, please, Anna. Okay, arguments. Now, arguments in Python is quite a large topic, but and I will send more links in regards to arguments within Python as well. But arguments in Python, we're going to go through a couple, and if there's any questions, please do let us know. But yeah, if we go into the next slide, please, Anna. Okay, cool. So an argument in Python is a piece of information that can be passed into a function. Now, arguments are specified after the function name, and this is usually inside the parentheses as well. What we understand is that we can add as many arguments as we want. All we do is just separate them with a comma. So similar how you would do for other things as well. Same you would do with arguments. You'd separate them with a comma. Now, what an argument actually is a value that is accepted by a function. So an argument, when we say argument, we know that it's going to be a value that's accepted by the function. And as well as that, now we know that keyword kind of arguments are assigned based on the name of the argument as well. So that's involving the keyword as well. Now, as well as that, you've got a lot of arguments in Python. There's so many. There's like we mentioned, the keyword argument. There's function arguments with default values. There's Python function arguments. There's one more in my head. I think it's Python function. So there's also a Python function with other arguments as well, but that's because that type of, I'm going to send the link for this as well, but sometimes we don't know the number of arguments that are going to be passed into a function, so then we use a certain type of argument in Python to kind of tackle that. So that is what we mean by arguments in Python. Now, there's 5 different types of arguments used in Python as well. So like we said, there's the default arguments, which is what Python usually has, the keyword arguments, positional arguments, and there's a few more as well. 2 I can't remember, they're not coming on the top of my head, but the definition is what I previously said just now. So yeah, now could we go on to the next slide, please, Anna? Okay. Okay, if we just go one back, I'll just explain a bit more. Okay, cool. So what I want to speak about in a bit more depth is, for example, the default arguments. So the default arguments are, again, what we mentioned, the values that are provided whilst defining the functions. Now, the assignment operator, which we all know what the assignment operator is. Guys, just remind me what the assignment operator is. Just pop it into the chat so I can just see everyone's on the same page. What is the assignment operator in Python? Anybody want to have a go? Yes, perfect. Well done, Rocky. And Joanna and Jess. Amazing. And everyone else following on from that. So yeah, we use the assignment operator. Now that's used to assign a default value to the argument. Now, if you provide a value to the default argument during function cells, so during the function call, it will override that default value. So it's going to basically override it. And as well as that, we need to remember that the function can have any number of default arguments. There's not a limit to how many arguments it can have. But that is just briefly something on default arguments. Now, as well as the default one, we have keyword arguments as well. Now, keyword arguments usually have the keyword, and then they also have the value as well. So they have the assignment operator and the value. So when for example, if values passed through the arguments don't need to be in the order of parameters in the function, then you can achieve that by keyword arguments. However, with the keyword arguments, it should match the parameters in the function definition. So it has to match the same thing. So for and like I said, I'm going to send a lot more on these types of arguments, so you guys can have a read in your own time and practice if you want to as well, which is a really good thing to do. Now, as well as that, all parameters are given as keyword arguments, so you don't need to maintain it in the same order either. But as well as that, we've got to remember that during a function call, that we can only give a mandatory argument as a keyword argument. So optional default arguments are skipped. So that's what we say when we say keyword arguments. Now, another argument we have is a positional argument. So with a positional argument, that's basically saying that during the function call, the values passed through the arguments should be in the order of parameters in the function definition. And keyword arguments should follow positional arguments only. Now, there are two ways for positional arguments in Python. And again, I will send the links across after this session, so you guys can have an extra read on it. But yeah, there's two ways in regards to positional arguments as well. Now, that is quite a bit on arguments, but just to kind of summarize it up for the first three, like I said, it is 5, but I know we've got a bit more content to cover. We know that default arguments should follow non-default arguments, keyword arguments should follow positional arguments, and as well as that, no argument should receive a value more than once, and default arguments are also optional arguments as well. Okay, could we please go on to the next slide, please, Anna? Perfect. So here we have a nice little example. Again, I'm going to get everyone involved. What do we think is actually going on in this example that we have here? We've got the functions, and then we want to print out what it says here. So we want to print out the following. And what do we think is what would the output of this be? So we've got my function Emil, my function Tobias, my function Linus, and what do we think is going on here? So again, guys, give it a go. Like I said, it's all a learning process. So it says fname as well, so we know fname, so I'm assuming first name, which makes complete sense in this case. What do we think is going on in this example here? Again, please give it a go. Don't worry if you think I might be wrong or whatever. It's a learning process, and don't be afraid of that. Okay, good, amazing, well done, really cool, well done. Yeah, perfect. So what it's saying is that we want to print the first name along with the surname refsness. So we've got all the functions. There's 3 names there, and we want to print all those functions out. So we print out the first name alongside with with the surname as well. Okay, could we go to the next slide, please? Well done to everyone who had a go. Really, really good. Okay, so now we are looking at hashlib and yourlib. So let me just have a bit of a... yeah, perfect. Can we go to the next slide, please, Anna? Okay, cool. So hashlib and yourlib. So what we know about hashlib and yourlib is that the hashlib module provides an interface to encrypt messages. This is quite cool actually, because I remember teaching this, I think was it last year or whenever, but They are basically used to encrypt messages, and for example, when you put a password in or something like that, you can use these modules to encrypt that password, so to find basically encryption. Now I think what was I going to say, so what we have is the hash module to convert passwords and important files. So it uses hash functions on byte strings to give us the output. And we have different hashing algorithms such as SHA-256. Now, this is used really frequently with, if you're looking at, encryption and kind of, I think, going more down the cyber route sometimes. And there's also a lot of projects that you can use Hashlib and Yolib for to actually do your own password encryptor, which is really cool again. Now again, it's mostly for example, to encrypt certain certain convert passwords and encrypt messages as well. Now there are also many hash functions defined in the hashlib library, so within Python, and you also have things like the MD5 hash. Now that hash function, it accepts bytes and returns the 128-bit hash value, but it's usually used to check data integrity. However, it also has security issues as well. So that is what we say by when we mean hashlib. Now we've also got the hash. So I'm just going to explain a bit on the SHA-256. So that is again another module within the hashlib. That's the SHA-256 is a function, and it's within the hashlib module of Python. And what it does, it creates a hash object. Now it is also it does take a byte-like input and returns a hashed value as well. So that is what we mean by hashlib. So again, it's used it's kind of used for message digesting algorithms, or looking at kind of cryptography kind of things, so cryptography hash and things like that. So there is a lot of things that you can actually do with the hash module. However, it does also have sometimes a couple of disadvantages. It does, like we mentioned, it does kind of you can have certain things that it depends on what you use. So like I said, there's a lot of hash modules, but it depends on what you actually use in regards to whatever you're using, because there's quite a lot. There's we have the SHA-256, we've got the MD5, there's a few more as well. But yeah, that is what we mean by hashlibs. So that is what we're basically saying. And in regards to challenges and stuff, again, I think there is another challenge or something that I have come across that you could also try. And it's slightly different to what we're doing at the moment, but it is a really cool one to try, because you're it's like you're making your own password, not like what do I want to say, like message encryptor and stuff. So it is quite a good challenge. But yeah, shall we go on to the next slide, please? Okay, so this is what it's basically saying within the hashlib, what we've kind of looked at already. So we have the input, which would be your name. Then we'd have the hash function. So again, we might be using MD5, we might be using SHA-256, and then the output would be a whole bunch of random letters or numbers. Again, with the example underneath, we've got hello. That's our input, the hash function, and then the output is what we get is a whole bunch of random random letters and numbers. So that's what I mean when we say we can use this to encrypt a message, or for example, if you send a certain message and you want it to be encrypted, but then the other person knows how to, decrypt that and see what the message says, then that would be a hash lib. We'd use a hash lib basically for that. Like I said, there are so many other hash algorithms, and it's not just the two I'm using. There's a lot more that you can have a look in. Like I think there's SHA1, SHA 512, all these. There's so many. Honestly, there are so many. But yeah, you can also I think you can get it on Python as well, so you can add it in. But yeah, so just one thing to remember as well, that some algorithms have known hash collision weaknesses. So that's like, for example, one of them is the MD5, which is, I know I've been referring to it, but it's something that is slightly in regards to collision weaknesses. That's one that's included. Shall we go on to the next slide, please, Anna? Perfect. Now, URLib is stands for the Uniform Resource Locators handling module in Python, and it allows you to access websites via your program. Now, URLib is part of the Python library and does not need it installing. Now, again, like I said, it already comes up, it already appears. What I am going to do is I'm going to try to find a challenge on the hash lib thing, because if you want to have a go at it, then you can do, because I'm sure we did. I think we covered it last year, maybe, I can't remember. But if you want to kind of see and problem solve a bit more and work on your Python development skills, then definitely go for it. But yeah, I know, like I said, I'm going to send a few things, but it'll just be really good for, for example, with the other project as well. It's just good to expand your own knowledge and take as much as you can from this Python MOOC as well. Okay, so like we said, URLib is part of the Python library and it does not need installing either. Now, with URLib, it just basically collects several modules and works with the URLs as well. So again, it uses the URL open function and is able to fetch the URLs using certain protocols. It works, for example, URLib is the one is the Python standard library, and I think they have a new URLib now as well, which you can definitely check out. But yeah, I'm just gonna see if I can find an example of it. Just bear with me a second, everyone. But let me just see if I can actually find it. Okay, wait, I don't think let me see. Just bear with me a second, because I think it'd be really good for you to see. Oh, okay, this is a nice example, actually. Okay, just bear with me. Right, let me just have a look. Oh, actually, we've got it on the next page. Perfect. Could we go to the next slide, please, Anna? All right, so this is literally what I was going to show you, the example that we've got on the right-hand side. So we have URLib, and then we've got the URLib request. So this opens and reads your URLs, mostly HTTPs. URLib parse, so that's parsing URLs. The URLib error, that contains the exceptions raised by the URLib request. And then we've also got the URLib robot parser, so that's for parsing robot.txt files. But these are all the following things that we can do within URLib. Now with what was it called? Yeah, so with the with each of them, there's certain things that they carry, certain I don't want to say commands, certain kind of tasks they carry out, and they are used for those specific tasks as well. So it's great to use, and as well as that, Python provides a library called a parser. So that's you can check that out within the libraries in Python, in whatever you're using. Now we also have sorry, I forgot to touch on this point as well, that parsing is defined as the process of converting codes to machine language to analyze the correct syntax of the code. And that is what we mean by parsing. So all you're doing is you're defining the process of converting the code to machine language, and you would analyze the correct syntax of that code as well. Okay, so that is your libs. Could we go on to the next slide, please, Anna? Cool. Okay, so brute force algorithms. Okay, I'll just go through the parsing definition again. So parsing is basically defined as the process of converting codes to machine language to analyze the correct syntax of your code. That is what we mean by parsing. Okay, so we have brute force algorithms. Now, again, this is all kind of used within the cyber, like within security and things like that. So it's quite interesting when you look into it. But if that's something that you want to go into, or even just practice as a little project, then you can do so. But a brute force algorithm solves a problem through exhaustion. It goes through all the possible choices until a solution is found. Now, one kind of disadvantage, or you could say a downside, as it says on the slide, of brute force algorithms is that they are very, very slow. So when we say very, it's like painfully slow sometimes. Now, the time complexity of a brute force algorithm is often proportional to the input size as well. So however large the input is, then it depends. That's how that's how it is with the time complexity. Now, if I just go on to, let me see if I can just access this link. Perfect, right. Okay, just let me have a look. Okay, so I'm just going to share this screen with you guys and just get the right one. Here we go. Perfect. So here you've got an example. This is the link as well that's available on the slide. But the brute force method approach is, like it says, is the simplest way of sorting an algorithm. It finds the smallest element in the array and exchanges it with the element in the first position. And then it's with the second smallest element in the array, it swaps it with the element in the second position, so on and so forth. So, for example, if we look at the numbers below, the numbers aren't in order until one of the sort methods happen. So that's what we say. That's what we mean. This is where a brute method would come about. So with an input and an output. So here you've got a nice example. You've got the input 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. Then you've got the output, which is all arranged nicely in order as well. And then you've got another input here, all mixed up. And then you've got the output of where it's all in order. So let me just see. Okay, so for example, these are, you've got all examples here as well. So this is what we mean from what we remember. So I think from here. Okay, so here we go. So what we're saying here is the brute force algorithm. If someone's trying to, like it says here, we've got this example here of the man traveling. So if for example, he's traveling 10 different cities in a country, he wants to determine the shortest possible routes of all the possible combinations, then you would use a brute force algorithm, and that calculates the distance between all the cities and selects the shortest one. So another example, again, is when you're trying to kind of decrypt a 5-digit passcode, then it might take as many as more than 100 attempts to break that code as well. But like we said, it solves the problem by exhaustion. So it goes through all the possible solutions, every choices, till it actually finds a solution that works. Now, the time complexity, like we said, is also based on the what's it called? based on the size of it as well. So the size of the brute force algorithm. Now again, they are, like I said, if it's a large input, then it can be quite slow. But in regards to sorting out the algorithms, it's a nice, effective way to use the brute force algorithm. Could we please go to? I think so. So it could be your Skyscanner app as well. So again, because it rearranges it in order, it could be that it uses that type of algorithm. What it would be nice to see if anyone can find any examples of where you think that a brute force algorithm is used. I would definitely share that with everyone else. It'd be really good to have, and the more examples, the easier it is for us to kind of understand a bit more about it. Okay, so if we go back onto the slides, Anna, please. I'll just stop my screen. Lovely. Okay. So yeah, that's what we mean by a brute force algorithm as well. Now, what we're doing is, could we just go on to the next slide, please, Anna? Okay, so I know that we said, so finishing our project. Now, like I mentioned, I've seen so many amazing projects this week, since our last session. And for those who are still doing them, please do carry on. Don't give up. It's absolutely fine. It takes time. It's a process. But like I mentioned, I've seen a calculator one that if you do want to have a go at it, it is there. It is an option for you to have a go at. And if you want to just, like I said, it's a little side project, then go for it in that sense, in regards to just expanding your knowledge on Python libraries and stuff like that as well. But yeah, if we go on to the next slide, please, Anna. Okay, so now I think last time a lot of us, I think we got through all of the code actually. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to go through, I'm just going to get my entire screen up and and I'm just going to go, let me see whereabouts I can go. I'm just going to share my entire screen with you guys. Okay, perfect. Oh, okay, I don't want this, so just close the extension. So yeah, we went through the whole imports. We went through what we have to import as well, from Tkinter, from TextBlob, and this isn't basically what your code should, or similarly it could look like this as well. Now again, each thing that we've used here is for our spelling checker. So for example, we've got the heading here, we've got the button here, we've got the everything in regards to the spacing. Now let me see if I can actually just share. So I know we've got this few people who are just starting this MOOC, so I'll just share it. So this is something like if you ever need to compare your project with your code, compare it side to side, then you can do so. So for example, this is like, just if you, as you're progressing along with your code, it's a good idea to constantly check what's the output of it, what am I doing, what shows what. So for example, we've got the root title, we know it's spelling checker, we know we've got the root background as well, we've got the spelling in regards to the labels as well. So for example, if I'm going to put a word, let me think, oh wait, that might be a word. Oh yeah, perfect. So so happy is what I wanted. So then it is all these kind of things. If you compare it side to side with your code, it makes it a lot easier for yourself. So like I know here I'm putting the correct text is, and then I've got it in purple, that I know that that's what it shows. This is what's going to come up. If I want to change the correct text is to, this is the following recommendation, or whatever you can change it to, you can do so. Now again, the same way, if you've got the spelling checker, I know that's my title, I know that I want it in the center, I know what font it is, I want it to have padding around it, that's that all shows whilst I'm looking at the code as well as looking at the actual project. Now with the button, I can check my button like that. So I know when I click on it, as you guys can see here, I want the foreground to be white. So that's what I want because and then the background itself, I know it's a lilac. So I've seen a lot of people use the hex codes as well. So all these things that you're learning, they are very useful to include in your spell checking project, as well as that just in general projects as well. It doesn't just have to be spell checking, but it can be other projects that you might want to work on in your spare time. Now, yeah, so that is what we mean by looking through that. Again, the debugging tips. If there's anything that you think, oh, I need to debug this, then check your indents. Make sure you've used the assignment operators in the correct places. That make sure as well as that, if you do have any errors, put these things in mind firstly. Think, okay, I've got my indents, I've got my assignment operators in the correct places, my variable names, I did spell the same way each time, so with the same capital and lowercase letters. Because sometimes if the variable name isn't spelled correctly, it's not going to recognize it, and then you're going to get errors. And these are just kind of the main, like you should have a little checklist in where you think, okay, if I'm checking my code, this is what I want it to debug. So because when we said spelling, sometimes computers can't recognize misspelled words. So what you need to do is check your spelling and capital letters. Within code, it might come up, like obviously when you're using different applications such as Microsoft or something like that, that's going to recognize incorrect spelling. But when you're coding and you've got a name for something, it's not going to recognize it straight away. It's not going to know that this is spelt right or this is spelt wrong, because it's what you've named the variable. And like we said, everything that we've learned about errors as well. So we've learned about syntax errors, runtime errors, what else? Logic errors as well. So we know that if we haven't defined our variables, then it's not going to recognize it. It's not going to recognize it in the code as well. So yeah, we need to also make sure that indents, what I mean by indents is that all the lines in the same block of code should have the same number of indents. So for example, after a colon, you add an extra indent on the next line, and at the end of the block, you take away the indent. Brackets and quote marks, just as important to include. We've seen that last week as we were going through through this project. We've seen that if we didn't include a colon, or we didn't close the parentheses or something, we'd get an error, because it has to all fall nicely together when you're programming as well. And then colons. So we know that we have to check that each conditional statement has a colon at the end before an indented line. So yeah, and sometimes what people actually recommend is it's actually best to start looking at the last line of an error message and working your way back. Why do we think that is? If someone recommends us to start looking at the last line of an error message and working our way back, why do you think we do that? What would that help us with? Okay, so I just pop your answers in, and we will. I'll have a read through them as well. But yeah, that's what we mean. And what I am going to do is I'm just going to go through a quick kind of overview as well on the code and what we've been looking at. So if, for example, I have a bracket, I've got print, so I can just add print. Oh, not that. And pop my brackets. That I know that bracket means that this is a function. So this means when I have the brackets, they are used to give information to the function. And again, if I have quotation marks within my bracket, so if I put code first girls, what I know that them quotation marks mean that is a string. Okay, so if I also have, for example, let me just say blue blueberries. Don't know why I came up with blueberries. Blueberries equals 7. That what I'm doing there is I'm using that assignment operator, the equal sign, to tell the computer to set the value of a variable or to create it if it doesn't exist. That is what I mean by saying using that assignment operator, using that equal sign. Now, when we say that, I want you guys to have a go. So I'm just gonna put a random. I'm gonna put shopping. By the way, guys, please don't include this in your spelling checker. This is just an example that I'm just giving everyone a bit of a refresher on because I know it's our last session, and I just wanted to give a nice kind of overview of Python as well. So I'm going to put apple, comma, bananas, nothing bananas, blueberries. Okay, so when I'm using, so as you guys can see, I've got a list here. Now, when I use the square brackets, that means that that is a list. Okay, so when I use the square brackets, I know that is a list. So if I use curly brackets then, okay, I do want to do that. See, I needed to close it as well. No, wrong one. There. Okay, perfect. So again, don't worry about all this. This is just, it's just me practicing and just giving you guys an overview of what we've been doing for the past few weeks. Again, one thing that I feel that we should touch on a bit more are for loops. So for loops, so for example, I could put for x in range 0 to 5. Is that? Okay, I need a comma 5, and then print x. So what I'm saying here, where I have this for loop, is I'm saying that that's where we say where we want to repeat an instruction a certain number of times. And again, we're looking inside the brackets to see the values or arguments given to the function. So when we say for loop, we mean that we want to repeat those instructions for a specific or certain number of times. If we have a while loop, then remember that that can be used to repeat the instructions as long as a certain condition is met. And then we also have the if and the else that they tell the computer to react differently to different conditions. So if the password is so and so, print correct, else print wrong, try again. So for example, when you log into your laptop, for either whether you've got a Windows or a Mac, doesn't really matter, it'll just come up with, if you put the wrong password is incorrect. And if your password's correct, it'll just log you in straight away. So that's using an if and else. That's using if and else. So now it's easier when we relate it to actual examples that help us understand it more. So we know that, okay, an if and else, they're used here. And if I get this, if the password's incorrect, this is why it's happening. And if the password's correct, this is why it's happening. So yeah, those are just that's just kind of a quick overview as well. Again, like we said, the colons link things together. So with our code, I'm just going to take this out. There we go. So the colons, they link things to the code. So they link things together, and a link ending in a colon will be followed by an indent to show the new line belongs to the line above. So that's what we mean by a colon. When we use a colon, sorry. And also as well, remember the brackets, they can be used for different things. So curly bracket can be used, and that means that's a dictionary. And then we have the colons within the dictionary as well. And that just means it links each key with its dictionary entry as well. So that's where we come with, by all these things in Python, they're used at they're used for certain things that we can do, so on and so forth. Right, just thinking, is there anything else that I would like to go through? I've got it all down. Well, yeah, got it down. But yeah, if I just stop sharing my screen, let me just have a quick look. Okay. Anna, could we go to the next slide, please? I think it's just the recap. Lovely. So, okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to send a few links on in regards to what was it called? In regards to the other project. So it's not something that you have to do, because it's just a spare, like a thing that you can do in your spare time or to expand your learning. But that's a calculator one, so that's using creating a calculator using Takinta and TextBob, I think it is, and you're basically creating what's it called? A calculator that is able to do arithmetic calculations, things like that. It's quite a cool project. And again, I will send that across. But yeah, like I mentioned, if you do want to have a go at it, then you can have a go at it. It's not a problem at all. Okay, cool. So let me just. Okay, so now this is our recap. So because we've gone through everything that we needed to today, we've got the following what do you call it? Oh yeah, one thing to mention as well is to just what Anna's saying, pass the 4 quizzes by the 13th of Feb, and make sure you just have a go at the quizzes as well. And again, we can see everyone who's attempted them, so it's important that you do that to gain your certificate. So yeah, going back to what we were on, the recap for today is using the return statements in Python, understanding the arguments in Python, differentiating between hashlib and yourlibs, and completing your project as well. What I am doing is I'm also just going to copy this link. Again, it is a Takinta project, but please do not feel like, I don't want to put stress on anyone's head saying you have to do this. It's nice if you want to have a go, but yeah, please don't feel too pressurized or anything like that to actually have a go. I'm just going to send it in here, and I will just write following. Cool. Okay, and it's just using a simple calculator using Python, and again we're just using Takinta within that as well. But yeah, like I said, if there are, and everythting that we've been through, please do make sure that if you have any questions on it, then do ask us. And a lot of you are helping each other, which is so lovely to see. But yeah, even if it's a matter of importing functions, so other things, the different types of functions as well. Again, we've got elif, which is what we've just kind of been through, short for else if, and that always comes after an if and springs into action when the conditions for if have not been met. So for example, the password example, sorry, pardon me. But yeah, if there are, always use like examples that you can think of to relate to Python projects a bit more, to just in Python in general, or even coding in general. Actually, the more you relate it to a project that you're working on, or for your own understanding with an actual real life example, the easier it makes it sometimes to actually understand what's going on. So yeah, I think So I'm getting a few messages from Slack. I can see the Slack messages popping up on my bottom right hand screen, but it's fine, don't worry about that. I will get back to everyone like I mentioned. And yeah, just again, make sure you go through things like we've been through in the first couple of weeks. So for example, integers and floats, an integer is always a whole number, such as 2. A float can be any number, including numbers with a decimal point, such as 2.5. And then you can also, the way you can think of a float number, if you want to, if you think, okay, I'm not too sure if I'm not too sure, then think about the decimal point floating between the digits. So that's what you can think of as a float number. It'll have a decimal point like just in the middle of there, floating, doing its thing. And an integer is always a whole number as well. But yeah, that is pretty much this Python MOOC done. But again, well done to every single one of you. And well done for coming this far, learning just from all the weeks, taking time to do the quizzes as well. Again, I will share the quiz in the bookmark after this session. And just how Anna mentioned, you need to complete and pass each quiz as well. But yeah, congratulations on coming to the end of the sprint. And we hope you also kind of, if you want, like Anna mentioned at the start, there's a load more courses that Code First Girls do, so please do have a look into them as well. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I will hand it back to Anna. We finished at a nice time today. No one was running late or finishing too late or anything like that.
Oh, good. Thank you so much, Ikra. I think you've said everything that I need to say to kind of round off the session.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, just a reminder to everybody, 13th of Feb is the big day you need to do all your quizzes by. It's the day before Valentine's Day, so you can get it all out of the way before Valentine's Day. Good luck to everybody on your coding journeys. For some of you, this may have been the start of your journey. If so, fantastic. And for some of you, it may have been a new language that you've learned. You already know lots of languages. If so, also fantastic. So well done to everybody for coming along and joining in. There are a few messages on the Slack channel, so we'll work through and try and get back to you guys there. But all the best, and thank you so much for sharing your Tuesday evenings with us. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.